Hey everyone, welcome to another segment of Ask an Architect, where I, Tim, an architect, answer your most burning questions as it relates to, well, pretty much anything. Ask me anything you want and I will answer it, maybe. Submit your questions to aaa@domum.design. So today's question comes from June, who's asking, do I need a landscape architect? Now this, like a lot of my questions, is it depends. That's a response I tend to give quite a lot in this segment, but it really does. There's a lot of factors to consider. One is the type of project you're working on, and another one is the municipality you're working within, and then finally, how much work needs to be done. So unlike architects, which are required under certain circumstances legally, typically landscape architects are not required by law. Now some cities, for example, there's some Bay Area cities that we work in, they do request that you use a licensed landscape architect when preparing plans. And I think the thought of that is that landscape architects have gone through certain levels of education, they have a certain standard in the way that they do their plans, and they are licensed by the state. Now the landscape architects are actually a subcategory of architects. They're not fully regulated by the state in the way an architect is. However, some municipalities do require that. And really, I would say landscape architects are kind of your best bet for having a complete and thorough design on your landscaping. They tend to stay up to date with their continuing education, current trends, paying attention to different state water requirements and that sort of thing. So it's always a good bet. Now, why you would not necessarily use a landscape architect, I would say primarily would be one of budget. If you can't find a landscape architect that works within your budget, then you might branch out. So the next level, I'd say kind of working your way down from a landscape architect, would be just a landscape designer. And similarly to an architectural designer or a residential designer, they're not licensed by the state. There's no regulation over them. Anyone can call themselves a landscape designer. Not to say that there aren't some very talented and skilled landscape designers out there. So you have to be a little bit more discerning when you're hiring a landscape designer, but sometimes they would be a great choice. The next option would be to find a landscaper who offers design services. So a lot of times landscape companies will actually provide designs and drawings. Now, the downside of using a landscaper is sometimes they're not equipped to actually provide the documentation that's required by the different cities and building departments. So that would be something to look at. When you're on the entitlement side, on the planning side of a project, trying to just make sure that your use is permitted, maybe you're going through a conditional use permit or a design review or some sort of land use entitlement, the cities are very specific about the types of landscape documentation they want. And you want to make sure that whoever you hire can provide that. And a landscape architect, I would say 99% of the time, they don't have a problem with that. Landscape designers, landscapers, you have to look into it a bit more. So then that brings us to the last kind of criteria of the scope and the type of project you have. If you're designing just a small little backyard layout for your house, and it's nothing too complicated, you're not doing a lot of hardscape, you're not doing any sort of permanent built structures, you're just doing some planting and irrigation, then a landscaper or a landscape designer might be a great choice. Commercial projects, you're probably going to want to err on the side of having a complete and thorough set and going with a landscape architect. So hopefully that helps. If you have a question, feel free to contact us, again, aaa@domum.design, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. Okay, until next time, guys, thanks so much. I've been Tim Alatorre with Domum.